Today we'll be taking a look at the FormD T1, which is considered to be one of the best small ITX cases. I'll also be comparing thermals between three typical configurations towards the end of the video, so without further ado, let's dive in. Firstly, the case comes flat packed, so assembly is required. Once the case is assembled, it should look something like this. The T1 features an adjustable spine, allowing for clearance to be shifted between the GPU and the CPU cooler. If you're into extreme custom liquid cooling and have a single slot GPU waterblock, you can install a slim 280mm side radiator with the optional bracket, though this is not for the faint of heart. It's recommended that you install the PSU with the included standoffs for better cable routing and additional fan clearance for Founders Edition graphics cards. For the motherboard and CPU, I'm using the Asus ROG Strix B650EI and a Ryzen 7 7800X3D, paired with 32GB of G.Skill Ripjaws S5 6000MHz CL30 RAM. For the GPU, I'm using the Gigabyte RX 6900 XT Gaming OC, simply because this is the best card I have available at the time being. For the fan and pump control, I'm using an Aquacomputer Quadro, which also features up to 2A fan headers. I'll be using this to power the rewired DDC pump installed in the LOBO. This is a CPU only custom loop using the LOBO CPU Waterblock, with the DDC pump set to roughly 1800 RPM. For the radiator, I'm using an Alphacool 240 ST20 HPE and two Noctua NF812 Chromax fans. You'll be limited to a 20mm thick radiator with two 25mm thick fans, or a 28mm thick radiator with one slim and one 25mm thick fan. I went with Mayhem's 13x10 tubing, which allows for a fair amount of bending without kinking, and EK's Micro 90 fittings, as these can be secured without physically turning the fittings. In order to fill the loop, you'll need to use an external pump / reservoir. I'm using an Alphacool one which I had from a previous build. Just as an example, you can install the QDC fittings at the rear of the case, which can help clean up tube routing and also expand cooling capacity with optional external radiator support. Unfortunately, I didn't have the required parts at the time of recording, so I'll cover this in a future video. With the case out of the way, let's take a look at the thermal comparison between three typical configurations using the T1, air cooling, EIO and CPU only custom loop, to see how each stack up. First, we have our main system running the LOBO CPU Waterblock in Cinebench R23. Next we have a 240 EIO. For this I'm using the Cooler Master Atmos 240 with Noctua fan swaps. Lastly, we have air cooling running the EXP90 X47 copper cooler with the Silverstone Air Slimmer 90 fan. Now let's take a look at how each of these configurations handle typical gaming loads. Again, first up we have the LOBO system, followed by the EIO system, and last but not least an air-cooled system. Just to note, the red shaded plot lines represent the RX 6900 XT GPU in each system. You can find the full details to each system on my website linked in the video description. That does it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you found this content useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.